Sup, this is episode 18 of WoW, and it's about toxic people. There are two types of toxic people. The first type of toxic person is someone who is circumstantially toxic. This means that if you put this type of person in a particular situation or with a particular person, they do not mix well. In fact, we are all that type of toxic person, as we're not going to get along with everyone nor every situation. As I mentioned in episode 14 about chemistry, while milk and chlorine by themselves are generally beneficial and useful substances, if you put milk and chlorine together in a confined environment, you'll get a bomb. This is because milk and chlorine don't belong together, just as some individuals are toxic towards one another. The second type of toxic person is someone who is generally toxic. While these individuals are a minority, they're out there. This is the type of person that attempts to project their negativity and misery onto others as an attempt to bring them down to their level, as misery loves company. They may also always seem angry and continuously look for conflict. They can be categorized as dramatic and are constantly in a crisis. The battle they are fighting is not with you, however, it is with themselves. It's one thing if someone owns up to their behavior and is making an effort to change. But if they persistently cause you pain, make you feel small, disregard your feelings and boundaries, then you have to run ERF on them. ERF is the name for the process I developed to use when faced with a toxic individual. It is broken up into 4 simple stages. The first stage is abort. Depending on the type and level of toxicity of the individual, this will determine whether you should do a soft abort or a hard abort. A soft abort is taking a step back from the individual and attempting to assess whatever it is you feel that is toxic about the interaction. Sometimes having our emotions provoked and or manipulated can interfere with our logic. This is a good starting point to see what you're really dealing with. A hard abort is immediately stopping the interaction. I'm talking dropping it like it's hot, with no further contact and radio silence. There's no going back after this type of abort, and it's usually reserved for those individuals who are extremely toxic and or abusive. The second stage of ERF is ignore. This is basically an attempt to see if you can live with their toxicity, and you do this by trying not to let it get to you. At the end of the day, you do have to accept people for who they are, more or less, if you plan on keeping them in your life. By just letting it in one ear and out the other, or avoiding certain activities, you may be able to handle a low-level toxic individual like this. The third stage is retry. Try soft aborts again, as well as trying different ways not to let an individual get to you. Retry stages 1 and 2 a few times until you can deal, or you're ready to come to the conclusion, which is stage 4. Fail. In all honesty, while I always recommend giving the benefit of the doubt at first, the truth is if you and those around you know for certain you're in a toxic situation, it's imperative that it ends as quickly as possible. The longer you stick around in a toxic situation is the more damage and havoc it will wreak on you, ultimately leaving you with potentially irreparable emotional, physical, and psychological wounds. It is in your best interest to pick flight and not fight in this case. Life is not a Disney movie. Sometimes there is no happy ending, and some things are just not meant to be. The sooner you disband toxic situations is the sooner you can find more loving and peaceful situations. I think one thing we as humans all have in common is the mutual pursuit of happiness that is only hindered when we allow toxic individuals a seat in the auditorium of our interpersonal relationships. This episode was brought to you in part today by the word gangly, y'all. What are your thoughts? How do you deal with toxic people? What's the best strategy for removing yourself from a toxic situation? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you know someone who would find this video helpful, feel free to share with them, because sharing is caring. I'll be posting episode 19 next week. I post a new episode every Wednesday, and in the meantime, you can email me at tc@troycarter.com if you have something you want me to talk about, as well as subscribe to my YouTube channel so you'll be the first to know what happened to the kaboom. There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.